Apologies that I will speak in English, but I hope you can understand me. If there's any concerns, please let me know, and I can slow down a little bit. So, what I'm going to present is hopefully going to bring us down to how to actually achieve goals in the long term. Because what we heard from the speakers before is a sad reality. We set goals as governments, as countries, as businesses, and we struggle to actually achieve them. And that's not because of bad intent, it is because it's damn hard to actually keep on performing while always improving the environmental and social footprint of an organization. I will try to put it in context of agriculture because that's our business at Adama. I joined Adama about a year ago, and I'm now the Chief Sustainability Officer. And my sole purpose is to deeply embed sustainability in all the processes within the company. That's what I'm here to do. But let's try to put it in context of where we are today. If we want to understand sustainability in context of agriculture, we have to actually set back for a short moment and just realize how big the challenge is that agriculture is facing if we are going to meet the targets that we set ourselves. We have to produce more, so there's no way to just stop. We have to produce about 50% more till 2050, because that's the increase in calorie demand that is expected by the FAO. At the same time, we have to cut emissions by about 4 gigaton versus 15 gigaton today if we want to meet our climate targets. We have to stop and halt biodiversity loss. A main driver of biodiversity loss is, of course, land use change because of more land used for agricultural production. So basically, we have to bring the footprint of agriculture down in order to feed and at the same time care for our nature. Preserving soils, it's kind of the essence of agriculture. That's where the soul of our food comes from. If we don't take more care of our soils, if we keep on losing them and degrading them at the pace, we will not get there. And we know that it's possible to do better. And another very sad truth about agriculture is that the majority of poverty in the world is within those that produce the food. So the poverty in agriculture needs to be addressed as well, and you don't do that just by not providing better solutions to those communities as well. So what does it mean in terms of outcomes? And that's the way a business needs to start thinking. What do you do in order to actually start translating the whole thing? So we want zero expansion of agriculture. That should be one of our main goals. We have to increase crop yields at a certain pace, around 18% increase by 2030 in order to reach the 45% that I mentioned before. We have to cut greenhouse gases, and here the science is very, very, very confused about how much is possible and how should it happen. That's why I didn't put numbers in there. But there's no doubt that we can only go in one direction. It's cutting greenhouse gas emissions in agriculture. We have to actually stop on-farm biodiversity loss through better management practices. And we have to actually stabilize the soil organic carbon in order to get healthy soils for the future. And of course, we have to stop losing food after it's harvested, and we have to do whatever we can for farmers to provide with what it takes. So, what does it mean in terms of thinking about how to embed those outcome goals into a sustainability or into a corporate strategy? We need to realize it will not be achieved with business as usual, because business as usual has not delivered yet. So we have to actually invest in more innovation that actually manages a business portfolio that actually helps people and nature at the same time. And that's why I want to explain a little bit on how we do this. There is a tool out there that is used in order to start understanding portfolio management from a sustainability aspect without losing focus on the business purpose. And that's the World Business Council for Sustainable Development that has presented this framework that is now widely adopted in many places. You start with defining the objectives, and you saw the objectives. You saw what we have to achieve, so I don't have to go into that. Then you actually start understanding what are the segments, what they call the product and application, product in an application concepts, that you start actually framing what kind of products are the ones that will move the needle in a certain direction that we want to achieve. And then you put the whole thing into what is called the market signals, or how to place the product in this kind of context. And this is what I want to get into in more detail in a second, in order then to start rating the portfolio, understand what is challenged within the portfolio, what do you have to replace, how do you start moving the needle in the direction that you want to achieve. And of course, that results in the well-known reporting that we all know. So translating that into agriculture, we went into an effort, and we do this with the whole Syngenta group, who is basically Adama is part of Syngenta group. But we want to apply it in particular to the Adama portfolio. But the concept is to understand what are the product benefits. So what is the benefits that our portfolio bring? And they are aligned to what I explained before. And at the same time, what are the vulnerabilities? What are the things that we need to actually reduce in order to become a better product at the end? And that's how you start measuring and embedding. So for the benefits, of course, the crop yield, you saw what we have to achieve. You need to have climate and nature target. You need to have social targets. And you need some form of market alignment, because agricultural inputs are very differently perceived across the globe. So you need market alignment for those products. And on the vulnerability side, it's pretty clear. We have to cut emissions. We have to cut emissions per ton of food produced. That needs to be our ultimate goal. We have to improve the health profile and the environmental profile. That's the concept. This is how it works. And I'd like to give you 3 strategic elements that we at Adama are focusing on in order to get there. How we start to actually shape our portfolio in order to do that. The first one is lower doses. Everything that we can do to reduce the chemical load in the environment is a good contribution to a better system. But for that, you need new technologies, because with the old technologies, you had even higher loads that you have today. So new technologies that we are developing, especially around our formulation mastery, are leading to reduced chemical load, safer handling, and are maintaining or increasing the efficacy of the product. So we're giving farmers better outcome with less input. At the same time, and this is a very important other component, is we try to put more into the bag, if you want to say so. So we try to increase the load of our formulation of the products that we sell, because that reduces plastic, that reduces transport costs, that reduces the carbon footprint of the product itself. That's the most significant one. If you can put twice as much of active ingredient into the same amount of volume, you save half the plastic, you save half the transport costs, you save half the carbon. And of course, it's extremely convenient, in particular now that plastic is more and more taxed around the world. And the third one is to find biological alternatives to the conventional crop protection. On both ends, on the biostimulant side that helps with better nutrient uptake, but also, and this is very important, to find effective alternatives to old chemical uses. That's what we're doing, and I give you one concrete example. A very common compound used, especially in organic farming, is copper. And one of the major challenges that we have in copper is that the load is around the kilos per hectare, in particular around organic farming, because they don't have fungicide alternatives. We've come up with a combination, a new formulation, we call it MasterCop, and we reduce the copper load by 30 to 50%, depending on the application. That gives the farmer more flexibility to use the copper products around the production cycle, but most importantly, it really brings down and leads to those ultimate goals of lowering application rates. This is how we want to move forward in the future, and you will certainly hear more about how we apply the PSA to channel our sales in a more sustainable direction. Thank you very much.